Hey, this is Paul McNeal, the Crypto Curator, and you're listening to the What is Crypto podcast.
Welcome back to the What is Crypto podcast with your boy Nye. My name is Matthew Aaron, and I'm the producer of the show. One of our closest friends in the crypto space is the Crypto Curator, Mr. Paul McNeal. He was one of my go-to podcasts for a long time. Every morning for about a year, I would wake up and listen to his daily crypto roundup, or the crypto news of the day. It was a great show. He took all of the facts, all of the news, all of the movements, all of the FUD, and he put it into about a 5 to 7 minute program. The thing is, it took a lot of research and collection of these stories. So when I was thinking about what is DYOR, every week for the past probably 3 months I've been saying, DYOR, what is DYOR? Do your own research. I was thinking we should have an episode of how to do your own research. And that's why we invited Mr. Paul McNeal, the Crypto Curator, on the show to talk about that. Couldn't think of anybody better than him. Anyway, enjoy this show. And if you do enjoy this show, please subscribe to us, share these episodes, share this channel, and please go to iTunes and write a nice comment. We'll see you after the show.
Paul, glad to have you on the show today. Can you just give a quick introduction of yourself? What is your full name and title?
Sure. My full name is Paul McNeal, and my title is the Crypto Curator.
And how would you describe yourself?
Bitcoin evangelist and aficionado, military veteran, friend, mentor, super connector, brand evangelist, Tesla enthusiast, an ESFJ, and I'm single.
Love it. You know, you've got a channel, you've got a podcast. I've been in your Facebook group pretty much since the first few weeks that I really started getting heavy into crypto, into trading and things like that. And all of your stuff is focused on multiple different things, from price to education and all of the stuff. How do you get the information? And I guess, how do you curate the information, and no pun intended, for the audience to make sure you're always delivering the best quality information?
So I'll take you back a little bit. So when I first ventured into entrepreneurship, it was a result of a good friend of mine that I was roommates with. He was starting a business, and he was a former communication director at a company called AMS, like a consultancy type IT company. At any rate, as a result of working there, he came up with an idea because he dealt with what was called at the time press clips. So people used to need to collect what was going on in the press for these companies. And so, and prior to that, he worked for a congresswoman up on Capitol Hill. And so he did that for them as well. So he came up with this format newsletter, basically. And as a result of doing that, I sort of watched him start this thing. Eventually, I quit my job at the government to join him. And we began producing this. We ran it for about 8 years together. I made a successful exit. And so when I entered the Bitcoin space, I said, this skill set that I've learned and I've had over these past 8 years, I wonder if there's something in this space that's like that. And as I looked around at all the things that were out there, I couldn't find anything that provided that comprehensive look around the world of crypto. So I began to apply that skill set to the brief that I put out. And how I get it, it's multiple ways. Everything from website visiting different publications, to some of it is with Google search algorithms that I have set up. Some of it is using other platforms that also curate content. There's a lot of ways to find information. And so that's sort of how I get it.
You know, there's so much misinformation in the crypto space. There's a lot of people on social media, Twitter, things like that, just posting a lot of bullshit in order to mislead people, scam people, or whatever it might be. How do you recommend, or what do you recommend for someone new coming into the crypto space and new coming into the scene, to make sure that they are only absorbing information that is quality information and more importantly, trustworthy information?
You know, I will tell you this, for someone who's been in this space for about 10 years and looking at this news, sometimes it's difficult because we face the same challenges that the regular news people do. Listen, everybody wants to break the story first. So everyone is jumping the gun on stories, not doing their research, and it comes from reputable publications sometimes. We've seen this happen with CoinDesk, happen with Cointelegraph, happens with a lot of these publications where they'll publish a story, but they haven't fully vetted it, and they have to come back and print a retraction. So in this space, because it's so new, so much innovation, so many scams, sometimes it can be tough understanding if a story is legit or not. But you eventually get your spider senses together, and all of a sudden, when you see a story, you're like, wait a minute, that sounds just a little too crazy. And so you back off from that and you wait. But I normally try to stay within publications that do have good reputation, quality journalism, and timely reporting on issues. And again, like I said, that can be tough. So somebody new in the space, I'd say stick with the mainstream publications and don't venture into the obscure publications.
This question, how do you use crypto in your daily life, is sponsored by BMag. BMag.io. BMag, they write stories that inform, influence, and inspire the global blockchain cryptocurrency community.
You know, I really don't use digital assets in my daily life. And I guess the question becomes why? You know, because of the current regulations, anytime you use digital assets, it's going to cost you tax-wise. Now, I know some people might not care too much about that, but it's a principle thing for me. I don't think I should be taxed when I use digital assets as a medium of exchange. And so I'm looking for that Token Taxonomy Act to get passed because it has a de minimis rule in there that allows you to use digital assets as a medium of exchange. And you know, if that happens, I would love to use digital assets to pay for my rent, pay for my utilities, buy things at the store. I mean, you name it. I would love to use digital assets in my everyday life.
And now, back to Michael and his guest. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Yeah, it can be tough, you know, because even some of the leaders in this industry have done some shady things that are that are a little questionable, you know, and even people you think you might be able to trust, like, not to name names, but I'm going to name some names, you know, like, you know, McAfee, he had coin of the day in 2017 where coins were going crazy just because he would tweet about them and things like that. And so I agree, you need to know who to trust. And sometimes it's kind of harder to figure out who to trust. You got any advice or any tips for people on who to kind of pick out, and or at least how you figure out who's trustworthy and who isn't?
There's a great podcast, believe it or not. Anthony Pompliano did a podcast with Ryan Selleck. Ryan Selleck, also 2-Bit Idiot, with Masari now. He was with CoinDesk. But he talked on that podcast, and if folks were to search that podcast with Anthony Pompliano or Ryan Selleck, they'll hear he talked about this a little bit, about the quality, because Masari is also putting together information in a platform. And there are some publications you have to do your homework to find out. And over time, you can figure it out. You know, when you first start in the space, yeah, you're going to read some crap. You'll come across some crap publications, things like that. But through time, you'll start learning who the reputable platforms are. And again, I can mention the big folks, Cointelegraph, CoinDesk, you know, NewsBTC. You know, there's a ton of really good ones. And then if you look at traditional publications, your Forbes, your Bloombergs, they're all great sources. And just listening to some of the podcasts, you know, getting involved in Twitter, you'll quickly begin to distinguish who puts out quality information and who doesn't. And that should be, you know, how to go about it.
Yeah, man, I agree. It's really kind of a trial and error kind of thing, you know. Coming into the space, everybody's going to make some mistakes, you know. You're going to probably join a Telegram group that makes you want to join into a pump and dump group, you know, to see if you can get rich really quick. You're probably going to send some money to someone on the internet in hopes that they're going to send you 10x the amount back. You know, you're going to make some dumb mistakes.
You will.
Yeah, it's kind of the learning process with crypto, sadly, but it is.
Now, one of the things I will say, and I'll add to that, is that I do believe that there are high quality news briefs that are out there. And again, like I said, not to pump my own, but I do pull together a lot of the great content. All the stories that go inside of Crypto Watch are heavily vetted by me. I do it all myself. So I understand who I'm putting in, what content I'm putting in. Again, I'm not perfect. There have been times where I've put a story in and I was like, oops, probably shouldn't have put that one in. But at the bottom of my newsletter, I have a list of other newsletters that are absolutely amazing and outstanding newsletters. Now, again, we look at this from a different perspective, but I'll name a few of these because I think that they are, especially people new into the space, they should depend on some of these. There's Bitcoin Tech Talk, there's Marty Bent's, there's Unbanked, Unchained, Token Economy, Chain Letter. There's a ton of really good newsletters, and that's a way for people new in the space to at least begin to understand what sources to look at.
Now, you mentioned a little bit about fake news and that even sometimes it can fool you when they write a really good article or they have a piece of content that could be potentially real and ends up being fake. Can you give me some examples? Like how are you able to tell that it's fake after they create some content that may or may not be legit?
Well, the place that will quickly call out bullshit in about 2 seconds is Twitter, crypto Twitter. Listen, you get a crypto Twitter that if a news article is not right, it will blow up in seconds in crypto Twitter, and everyone will be talking about it. And all of a sudden, you quickly learn that story wasn't true, which points to this: with crypto Twitter, it is truly what's happening now. With so many eyeballs out there, and with crypto Twitter being there, you can quickly get a sense for what's really going on in the news, because crypto Twitter, mostly people are sharing news stories. That's what the whole platform is. And so you're able to quickly gain if something's not right. And I'm trying to think of an example of a news story that came out where, again, people on Twitter quickly raised the flag and was throwing the flag saying that's BS. Maybe it'll hit me. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but it's happened a couple times where there's been a news story come out. I even put it in my news brief, but turns out that wasn't the case.
I think one of the greatest examples of that is the Craig Wright Satoshi thing.
Yep.
For weeks on end, there was just relentless, and still is to a degree, there's just relentless nature of people calling him out as a fraud and as a scammer and things like that, where in other cases, if we didn't have people having that conversation about whether he is or isn't a scammer or whether he is or isn't a fraud, he could post reputable news sources. At least the Bitcoin SV guys, they own the Coin Geek website, which at first glance looks like a semi-legitimate news source until you realize that it's owned by a very biased source.
I'm glad you brought that example up, because that really is the example. I've told many people this, and it's happened several times. If anyone tells you they're Satoshi Nakamoto, run away. Don't even read the news article, because listen, there's no way someone's going to start publishing that they're Satoshi. It just doesn't make sense. So I tell people, when you see someone coming out, and there's been a couple of times that there have been news articles come out saying there's going to be a reveal as to who Satoshi Nakamoto is, it's like, that's not true. It's not going to happen.
Bro, yeah. That's my favorite one, man. That's literally my favorite one, when it's like, hey, we're going to announce Satoshi Nakamoto on Saturday the 14th.
Right.
Please sign up for this newsletter to get the information. Like, okay, yes, Satoshi Nakamoto is definitely going to lead me into his email funnel so he can upsell me on some products. That sounds real legit.
Right. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, Paul. I appreciate you chatting and guiding our audiences a little bit on all this different stuff. I think it's important that people understand where to get their news from and how to pick out the right news sources, especially in this ever-moving quickly crypto scene.
Indeed.
That was Mr. Paul McNeal with Mr. Michael Nye. Your DYOR today is to go check out his channel, The Crypto Curator. He has a podcast, comes out in the mornings, and he tells you the news and the things to look for in the crypto space. That's it. Just another podcast to listen to. It's a good one, I promise you. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this show, and I hope to see you in future episodes of the What is Crypto podcast with your boy Nye.